Don't move. The command crackles through every radio at Montana's Glacier Ridge Sanctuary, freezing the research team in their tracks. Through the observation cameras, they watch as a 400-pound brown bear emerges from the tree line, moving with deliberate purpose toward their lead rehabilitator, Marcus Bennett. But it's not the bear's size that has the veteran wildlife experts holding their breath. It's what she's about to do next. Marcus feels his heart hammering against his ribs as he recognizes the distinctive crescent-shaped scar on the bear's left ear. 8 years ago, he had stitched that wound himself, working through the night to save a dying cub that would later be named Luna. 8 years since budget cuts forced them to release her back into the wilderness. 8 years of experts assuring him that wild animals don't remember their human caretakers, that their instincts erase all traces of human contact. Yet here she stands, this magnificent creature who has survived nearly a decade in Montana's most rugged wilderness, about to challenge everything science claims to know about wild animal behavior. As the morning mist curls around her massive frame, Luna does something that will make wildlife researchers question decades of established theory, something that will leave even the most hardened skeptics speechless. Before Luna's extraordinary reaction unfolds, join our growing community of wildlife enthusiasts by hitting subscribe. We bring you incredible stories of animal intelligence and unexpected reunions every week. Want to witness the moment that left hardened scientists speechless? Luna's remarkable reaction is just moments away, and you won't want to miss what happens next. The morning begins deceptively normal at the sanctuary. Dawn paints the sky in soft oranges and pinks as Marcus's truck winds up the gravel road. His weathered hands grip the steering wheel a bit tighter today, responding to an urgency in the early morning call he received. Something unusual has been happening at the northern perimeter, they told him, something that demanded his immediate attention. Sarah Chen, the sanctuary's lead wildlife observer, meets him at the parking lot. Her usual composed demeanor has given way to barely contained excitement. The cameras picked up something extraordinary, she says, leading him briskly to the observation room. A female brown bear has been circling the same section of fence for 3 days straight. She's displaying unusual behavior, completely unlike typical wild bears. In the dimly lit observation room, Marcus watches the footage with growing amazement. The bear moves with deliberate purpose, showing no fear of human structures, yet maintaining a respectful distance. But it's a small detail that makes his coffee cup slip from his grasp. A distinctive scar on the bear's left ear, a marking he knows as well as his own reflection. His mind catapults back through time, to a desperate morning in 2016, when that scar was still a fresh wound on a frightened bear cub named Luna. Luna's arrival at the sanctuary had made headlines across Montana. Found beside her mother's body, victim of illegal hunting, she was barely clinging to life. The media called it a miracle when she survived those first critical weeks. What they didn't report was how Marcus spent countless nights sleeping beside her enclosure, how he developed innovative rehabilitation techniques specifically for her, how their bond grew into something that defied conventional wildlife protocols. As Marcus stares at the footage, memories flood back. Luna learning to fish in the sanctuary's specialized training pools, her triumphant first catch sending water splashing over them both, the unique rumbling sound she made only for him during morning feedings, the way she would sit and raise her right paw, a behavior she invented herself to show she was ready for training. The sanctuary's forced budget cuts in late 2016 had made Luna's release necessary earlier than planned. The farewell had torn at Marcus's heart, but Luna's tracking collar provided regular updates that proved she was thriving in the wild. When the collar's battery finally died in 2020, Marcus had to accept that their extraordinary chapter had ended. Wild animals didn't remember their human caretakers, every expert assured him. They moved on, their wild instincts erasing the brief period of human contact. Yet now, 8 years later, Marcus finds himself questioning everything he thought he knew about wild animal behavior. The bear in the footage moves with familiar patterns he helped instill. She explores the territory with the same methodical approach he taught during rehabilitation. But it seems impossible. Luna should be deep in the wilderness, her territory far from human settlement. The chances of her returning, let alone remembering anything from her rehabilitation, defy scientific understanding. As the footage ends, Marcus realizes his hands are trembling. If this truly is Luna, everything he believes about wildlife rehabilitation is about to change. He straightens his jacket, checking his radio's battery with practiced efficiency. "Get the research team." "Ready," he tells Sarah. "If this is who I think it is, we're about to witness something unprecedented in wildlife conservation history." The morning fog still clings to the ground as Marcus steps out of the observation building. The air carries the crisp scent of pine and early spring growth. In the distance, the morning sun begins to break through the clouds, illuminating the scene for what will become one of the most extraordinary moments in wildlife conservation history. Time seems to slow as the sanctuary springs into careful action. Marcus positions experienced staff members at strategic observation points, their cameras ready to document whatever might unfold. The morning light strengthens, burning away patches of fog and revealing the vastness of the surrounding wilderness. Every person feels the weight of anticipation, knowing they might witness something unprecedented in wildlife research. Sarah coordinates with the research team from the main observation tower. "All cameras are rolling," she confirms through the radio. "Motion sensors are active along the entire northern perimeter." Her voice carries the controlled excitement of a scientist on the brink of a discovery. Through their equipment, they track the subtle changes in the forest. Birds falling silent, small animals retreating, signs that a large predator approaches. Marcus checks his watch. 7:15 a.m. The exact time Luna used to expect her morning training sessions 8 years ago. The coincidence sends shivers down his spine. He thinks about all the experts who insisted rehabilitated bears lose their human connections once released. "Wild instincts take over," they always said. "The animal brain isn't capable of maintaining such memories." Yet something keeps drawing this bear back to the sanctuary. Through his binoculars, Marcus studies the tree line. The morning breeze carries familiar sanctuary scents, fresh hay from the storage barn, fish being prepared for the resident animals, the subtle hint of cleaning solutions. All smells that once meant home to a young bear named Luna. His hand tightens on the radio as movement catches his eye. The forest edge seems to ripple. Birds take flight. Then, with breathtaking grace, a massive brown bear emerges from the shadows. Her movements display the confidence of an apex predator, yet something about her behavior seems almost deliberate. She pauses, testing the air with practiced attention, exactly as Marcus had taught Luna during their scent recognition exercises. "Visual contact established," Sarah whispers through the radio. "Subject is approximately 200 yards from the perimeter fence. Estimated weight 400 pounds. Healthy coat, strong muscle definition, no signs of injury or distress." Her clinical description barely masks her growing excitement as the bear moves closer. The sanctuary's security protocols normally require immediate action when a wild bear approaches. Warning sirens, deterrent measures, emergency responses, but Marcus holds up his hand, silently requesting they wait. This bear shows none of the typical signs of a wild animal investigating human territory. No aggressive posturing, no territorial marking. Instead, she moves with what almost looks like purpose. Through the observation cameras, they track her methodical approach. She follows a path that offers maximum visibility, staying in clear view of the observation posts. Wild bears typically use cover, moving through shadows and dense vegetation. This one seems to want to be seen. The behavior is so unusual that even the skeptics on the research team lean forward, their notepads forgotten as they watch. Marcus's throat tightens as the bear reaches the 100-yard mark. Even from this distance, her size commands respect. She carries the scars and confidence of 8 years in the wilderness. Nothing about her appears domesticated or habituated. To humans, she is the embodiment of wild power and natural grace. Yet something in her movements reminds him of the young bear he once knew. The sanctuary falls into complete silence. Even the resident animals seem to sense the gravity of the moment. The bear stops, sitting in a small clearing 90 yards from the fence. Her posture mirrors the training positions Marcus used during rehabilitation. It could be coincidence, they all know that. Natural bear behavior sometimes mimics trained responses. But doubt begins to creep into even the most skeptical minds. Sarah's voice breaks the silence, barely a whisper through the radio. "Marcus, you need to see this." Camera 3 focused on her left ear. The high-definition zoom reveals what Marcus already knows in his heart. The small scar, uniquely shaped like a crescent moon. The marking that earned Luna her name all those years ago. His hands shake as he reaches for his radio. "I'm going down," he announces, his voice steadier than he feels. "Maintain positions. No intervention unless I signal." The research team exchanges glances. Protocol strongly advises against approaching wild bears, but they all recognize this situation has moved beyond standard protocols. As Marcus begins his descent from the observation post, the bear's head turns, tracking his movement. Her entire body language shifts, displaying an alertness that seems focused entirely on him. The sanctuary staff hold their breath, watching through cameras and binoculars as two paths, separated by 8 years of wilderness and survival, begin to converge once again. Marcus's footsteps crunch softly on the gravel path as he makes his way toward the perimeter fence. His heart thunders in his chest, each step bringing him closer to a moment that could rewrite everything known about wild animal behavior. The bear watches his approach, her massive frame completely still except for her head, which tracks his movement with unnerving focus. At 50 yards from the fence, Marcus stops. The morning sun now fully illuminates the scene, revealing every detail of the magnificent creature before him. Her fur shimmers with health, muscles rippling beneath as she adjusts her position. 8 years in the wilderness have transformed the young bear he released into the epitome of wild power and grace. The next few moments stretch into eternity. No one at the sanctuary dares to breathe. Cameras whir silently, documenting every second. The bear rises slowly to her full height, her size even more impressive as she stands. A collective gasp echoes from the observation deck. Then something extraordinary happens. A deep rumbling sound breaks the silence. Not a growl, not a typical bear vocalization, but a unique sound that makes Marcus's knees go weak. It's the exact greeting Luna used during their morning training sessions, a sound he hasn't heard in 8 years. The bear takes 3 steps closer, then sits down in the precise position Marcus taught during rehabilitation. "Impossible," whispers Dr. Thompson, the sanctuary's lead researcher, into his recorder. Subject is displaying learned behaviors that should have been erased by years of wild instinct. His scientific detachment cracks as the bear raises her right paw, holding it precisely at chest level. It's the signal Luna invented herself, her way of showing she was ready for their training sessions. Tears stream down Marcus's face as the bear continues to demonstrate one remembered behavior after another. She moves parallel to the fence, maintaining eye contact, showing the exact patrolling pattern he taught her for territory inspection. Each movement mirrors their training sessions with impossible precision, defying every scientific paper ever written about wild animal memory. The sanctuary's staff watch in stunned silence as Luna, a fully wild bear who has survived 8 years, in some of Montana's most rugged wilderness, continues to perform behaviors that should have been lost to time and instinct. She shows no interest in the sanctuary's food smells or the other animals. Her entire focus remains on Marcus, her reactions showing a level of recognition that shakes the foundation of wildlife behavioral science. "In 30 years of wildlife research, I have never seen anything like this," Dr. Thompson manages to say, his voice thick with emotion. The bear's behavior suggests not just memory, but a depth of emotional connection that science had considered impossible in rehabilitated wild animals. Each gesture, each response builds upon the last, to create a moment that leaves even the most hardened skeptics questioning their understanding. For almost an hour, Luna maintains this extraordinary interaction. She never approaches closer than a safe distance, displaying both her wild wisdom and her remembered training. The research team scrambles to document every detail, knowing this encounter will be studied for years to come. What they're witnessing breaks every rule in their textbooks about wild animal behavior. As the sun climbs higher, Luna begins showing signs of preparing to leave. But before she turns back to the forest, she performs one final act that leaves the entire sanctuary truly speechless. She rises briefly on her hind legs, paw lifted in the exact farewell gesture Marcus taught her. a behavior she used to perform at the end of every training session. The movement is so precise, so clearly intentional, that several staff members have to turn away, overwhelmed by its implications. Then, with the same grace that marked her arrival, Luna turns and moves back toward the forest. At the tree line, she pauses for one last look at Marcus. The morning sun catches her eyes, and in that moment everyone present feels the weight of witnessing something that transcends their understanding of wildlife behavior. As Luna disappears into the forest, the spell of silence breaks. The research team erupts into excited discussion, their voices carrying a mix of awe and scientific fascination. Camera footage is immediately downloaded. Measurements and observations are frantically recorded. But Marcus remains still, his eyes fixed on the spot where Luna vanished, his heart full of a truth that no scientific paper will ever fully capture. In the days that follow, Luna's extraordinary return and reaction become the talk of the wildlife conservation community. Experts debate the implications, theories are proposed and challenged, and the footage is analyzed frame by frame. But for those who witnessed it firsthand, no technical explanation can fully encompass what they saw. They watched as a wild bear, against every scientific expectation, demonstrated not just memory, but a depth of emotional recognition that left them all speechless. In the weeks following the extraordinary reunion, Glacier Ridge Sanctuary transforms into a hub of scientific activity. Wildlife researchers from across the country arrive to analyze the footage and interview witnesses. Every frame of the encounter is studied, every behavior documented and debated. The implications of Luna's remarkable display of memory and emotional recognition spark intense discussions in the wildlife conservation community. Marcus finds himself at the center of this scientific storm, yet his own understanding goes deeper than data and analysis. Each morning, he arrives at the sanctuary before sunrise, drawn to the observation post by an unspoken hope. His patience is often rewarded. Luna returns regularly, though less dramatically than that first encounter. She appears at the forest edge during his morning shifts, maintaining a respectful distance while showing subtle signs of recognition that only he understands. Dr. Thompson leads the research team in documenting these continued visits. What we're observing challenges fundamental assumptions about wild animal cognition, he explains during a staff meeting. Luna isn't just showing basic recognition, she's demonstrating long-term memory of complex learned behaviors, emotional association, and most remarkably, the ability to balance this connection with her wild instincts. The sanctuary's security cameras capture Luna's visits in the early morning light. She never approaches as closely as that first day, never repeats the full display of remembered behaviors. Instead, she shows something even more remarkable, the perfect balance between wild bear and remembered connection. She maintains her territory deep in the wilderness, successfully hunting and foraging, yet finds time to acknowledge the bond that helped her survive. News of Luna's story spreads beyond the scientific community. Wildlife photographers camp out, hoping to capture images of the remarkable bear who remembered. Documentary crews arrive with their equipment, eager to tell the story of this extraordinary reunion. But Luna's appearances remain private, shared moments in the early morning hours when the sanctuary is quiet and still. The impact on wildlife rehabilitation practices is profound. Research papers begin suggesting new approaches to animal rehabilitation, taking into account the possibility of deeper emotional capacity and longer memory than previously believed. Luna's story challenges the traditional notion that success in wildlife rehabilitation means complete separation from human connections. Yet perhaps the most significant change occurs in the daily operations of Glacier Ridge Sanctuary. The staff notice subtle shifts in how they approach their work with injured and orphaned animals. While maintaining professional boundaries remains crucial, there's a new understanding that the connections formed during rehabilitation might run deeper than anyone had imagined. Marcus continues his work with the same dedication that marked his first days with Luna, but now there's an added dimension to his interactions with each animal in his care. "We've always known these animals are extraordinary," he reflects one morning, watching the sunrise paint the mountains in gold. Luna just helped us understand how much we still have to learn about them. As spring turns to summer, Luna's visits become less frequent. The research team tracks her movements through trail cameras placed deep in the wilderness. She's spotted with 2 cubs, proving she's successfully establishing the next generation. The footage shows her teaching them the survival skills she learned both from instinct and her time at the sanctuary, creating a bridge between the wild and the remarkable bond she formed years ago. The scientific papers eventually published about Luna's return and reaction focus on the measurable data, the specific behaviors displayed, the frequency of her visits, the statistical improbability of such recognition after 8 years in the wild. But for those who witnessed that first extraordinary reunion, the true impact goes beyond what can be captured in charts and graphs. In the end, Luna's story becomes more than just a remarkable reunion between a bear and her caretaker. It stands as a testament to the complexity of animal consciousness, the depth of bonds that can form across species, and the endless capacity of nature to surprise and humble us. Her reaction that spring morning didn't just leave witnesses speechless. It opened their eyes to possibilities they had never considered before. Even now, on quiet mornings, when the mist hangs low over the sanctuary, Marcus sometimes catches glimpses of a large bear moving through the distant trees. Whether it's Luna or another wild bear hardly matters. What matters is the understanding her extraordinary reunion brought to everyone at Glacier Ridge. That in the complex web of relationships between humans and wildlife, there are still mysteries waiting to be discovered and connections that defy our every expectation. From orphaned cubs to thriving wild bears, every rescue story deserves to be told. Want more incredible journeys of animal survival and second chances? Hit subscribe to join our community of wildlife champions. Every week we share remarkable stories of animals beating impossible odds. Share Luna's story to inspire others who believe in the power of rescue and rehabilitation, because every animal deserves a chance at a wild and free life.